We're back on the Orizon. We are super excited to be able to bring you guys a new season with new guests. We wanted to kick things off the right way by making sure that the first guest we had on for the new season was none other than the man himself, big man Oren. If you guys have ever worked with Oren, you know anything about him, you know that the introduction could go for as long as an hour. I mean, I've known him now just for the better part of the last year here, and I have come to know him as an incredible entrepreneur, an incredible father, an incredible role model, and what is becoming an incredible friend. He is the founder and CEO of Orizon Energy. He is the founder and CEO of Orizon Utilities. He is the I guess owner of Orizon Automotive. I could go on and on and on. Like I just mentioned in terms of the accolades that this man has kind of collected. But like I said, above all else, a fantastic father, great role model, amazing entrepreneur, and an amazing friend. Oren, thank you so much, man, for being here and taking the time for episode 1 today.
Thank you for taking the lead. Thank you for the kind words, and I feel very humbled, period, right? Like the way to hear you describe it, I think it all started with good ethics, values, and hard work ethic, and I want to believe that I haven't changed and around me grew, and I am blessed to have the people I do around me because that's what brought us here. With not just Orizon, right? That obviously is the cherry on the top, right? But throughout all these years and all the challenges, adventures, hustles that I took part in, right? I really, really think that the biggest thing that is a distinguishing factor I used to say, I'm going to do it all on my own, to where I'm at now that I just have a bunch of really good people around me that are making it a true blessing. And I think even having you and DG and, the changes in 2025, they all fall into that category because one unique thing is like, do good, right? If you build it, they'll come. And I think in Orizon especially, it's noticeable that good people are coming.
Yeah.
And a lot of strong, talented, capable individuals are finding a home in the Orizon family, and we're just blessed to have that.
Yeah, and the importance around the people you attract obviously comes from what you've built as the foundation to be able to attract them. And so there's a lot of people out there that love you and I know would agree with me. I know for a fact I'm not the only one. And so that's why we wanted to do this today. Obviously, the goal is to not have your loud, amazing energy on the podcast as much. And so I'm going to do my best to kind of take over those reins, give the updates, give the number breakdowns week over week, and have guests on that hopefully bring value to the internal team at large. But it wouldn't be right if we didn't start with the big man as the first one here. And so I wanted to do this because I don't know if a lot of people know some of the stuff that I've gotten to know about your background, your story, kind of the genesis of Oren Zamir. And so let's start there, man. Just walk me through kind of how we've gotten to today, what's worth noting, and just some of the stuff along the way that, you hear these stories sometimes and I don't even believe them half the time with some of the craziness, but walk me back, man, how this all started.
Growing up in Israel, in the northern part, so I grew up in a town right on the Lebanese border, right? And I like to mention that because it's interesting, again, politics aside completely. I grew up seeing nice Lebanese on the other side of the border, kids waving at me where I would drive through my family farms on a quad, So you got to put everything aside. And what unique was about Metula is that it had the only ice rink in the country. So at a very young age, I got into a very non-Israeli sport of hockey. And at age 13, I started playing for the national team, and I was very athletic in the hockey world in Israel, which is not an impressive hockey world when you put it on the world stage. And, at age 16, I had an opportunity where a former NHL coach that ran a hockey camp in Israel asked me if I would consider moving to Canada to play hockey. And that was the beginning of my North American chapter. At the time, people might not know, but I was DJ Orizon. It all started as DJ Orizon. And I was good, man. I was, under 18 scene, like 400 kids parties. And it was great, and it was a nice hustle to make money too. But something told me if I can ever be that first Israeli in the NHL, like that opportunity for someone else to see value in my hard work, I gotta take it. And I left home. At age 16, I left home, and I was an only Jewish kid in a Catholic boarding school, Notre Dame, Saskatchewan. And was crazy, right? Like arriving from plus 30 to minus 30, and just diving headfirst into it, not making the AAA team that year for the tryout, realizing, okay, clearly you're not that good after you made the move, and needing to collect the pieces and get right back on the horse and decide to commit and practice as hard as I can this year to get better. And all this I look as part of the foundation that to me, it's just so simple, the concept of put your head down, laser focus on, and work hard, and you could look back and say it came from the small town mentality in Israel, from the hard people, hard workers around me. But when it came to money, to me, I always told from a young age, I have to be wealthy. And wealthy comes in very different, ways. People don't realize it. But to me, wealthy meant that, again, I had a tragedy at the family where my grandma passed. And crazy enough, my mom and her brother got into an inheritance fight. And here you all of a sudden have a scenario that you didn't see coming. Like we just all suffered the loss of a loved one. And for 10 years, my mom and her brother didn't talk. And all of a sudden, I don't see my cousins. And it was just crazy to me. So to me, wealth was have enough money that you never need to fight people that you love because of money. That was my definition. And when I came out of Notre Dame, I went to the States to play hockey in Maryland. So I did one semester. And the way Israel works, I just ended up going back home before anything concluded in North America.
So wait a second, just to make sure that we're following.
Yeah.
But so you come down to North America, playing at Notre Dame. You're starting to set the foundation, right? You're learning the disciplines of maybe you're not as good as you thought you were, so you got to get better. In the pursuit of getting better, you now end up in the States?
No, so after high school, it was, Notre Dame developed me a ton, right?
Okay.
Like Notre Dame was a tough school, and I give that a lot of respect. But what happened also is I became a beast, right? I came as a 190-pound kid, not small kid, 6 foot, and left at 220, just, a tank.
Sure.
And I went to play hockey in the States because someone thought, I want to have this guy play hockey in our university.
Very cool.
And it was interesting because this guy, a lot of it was not necessarily being the best hockey player, but the story around it, right? I think a lot of people really related to the story and the fact that, someone from Israel that is shining the hockey world,
Easy to support the story and the underdog and what that kind of means for the whole community at large, I guess, eh?
And just people in general, I think, right? Because Israel does often get seen in the war zone area.
Right.
And you mean we can just support sport and fun and what we love? So it was just a good story to go with, right? And
so where'd you end up in the States? What
Maryland.
State? Maryland, okay.
And that was mind-boggling because just, going from a Catholic boarding school to university in the States, it's American pie, right? Like it was insane to see it live.
Yeah.
And I milked it all, right? Because I wanted to really understand at that point, okay, what am I about? Where am I headed? What's going on here? It was a great, great time. But hockey was no good. And again, that's where I think decisions, and we all have these decisions along the journey, are probably some of the most important things that people don't prioritize, right?
Sure.
To be decisive. And in that point in my life, I was decisive on the fact that, okay, you're not making the NHL. Who are you kidding? You can keep chasing that dream. And you see that often, but the decision was like, okay, what are you doing, right? And at that point, I actually thought I am going back home and I'm going to settle in Israel.
Right.
And just, again, decisions, right? Life comes at you, and all of a sudden I realized that Israel doesn't transfer my education from North America. And I'm like, How do you deal with that where you're 18 and a half and they tell you you need to do grade 12 again, you need to do an SAT in Israel, your one semester of university doesn't transfer. So again, you have a big decision. Am I going to just embrace it, accept it, and follow the lane? Or I'm going to do what others want, right? And that's when I said I'm going to North America.
And on that quickly, so did you actually graduate from Maryland? Like, did you get a degree?
No, so I did one semester.
One semester.
And then ended up going back.
So you never graduated from university or college or any of that stuff?
So when I went back to Israel, I was basically told they can't transfer everything. They said, had you have done a full year of university, we would have been able to transfer it. I'm like, what? Because it's $30,000 per semester, international, that. And I got one semester under my belt. And the second one I should have done, but you guys called me back to Israel. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not going to help me to blame or get angry. And I just said, how can I make money? And how can I know hockey on my own, find a way to get one more semester, so then I have a full year of university and I could transfer everything back to Israel and not waste a year of my life.
And keep going to school in Israel was the goal.
Yeah,
like
thinking that school is the right way.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, my dad dropped out of school and started his business. He was a carpenter, had a woodworking shop for many, many years. And to him, again, growing up with that, just be responsible, go to school. That was my belief as well, And I finally found a way back into North America and got into sales, right? It's so cool to think about, okay, you can be a victim or you can realize, hey, sales, you can always do what you want to do. And they opened the door to me and they're like, listen, it's commission-based. So Shalev used to tell me, I don't know, Oren, you're not a salesman. And how are you going to do it? I'm like, dude, I'm just going to work so hard, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And it took off, my first summer in door-to-door world, in 5 months, you can say, I made just about 60 grand. Money I've never seen. I was a youth hostel receptionist in Israel, making $7, $8 an hour.
Well, and it's worth noting, so you go back, you finish half the semester from Maryland, you go back to Israel, you're trying to figure out whether you can get another semester to then continue doing school out there, given what Dad had set as the tracks for what you thought you had to do. And then from Israel, though, you're at, 19 at this point, you go back to North America?
20.
20? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
20. So I had a year there, right? The reason I went back home is obviously the Israeli army conscription and everything. And I went in and I had a year of special training that taught me a lot, again, about mind over matter and pushing your limits, right? And I'm proud to say I was never involved in any act of war. I literally did the training and then got injured because hockey screwed my shoulder, and that's how I ended up getting injured in the army, get exempt. And when I left, I'm now out of the army, right? So what do you do?
Yeah.
You're 20 years old, all of your friends are in the army, you don't have a job, what do you do, right?
Sure.
And that's when I'm like, okay, go to university, right? That's the responsible thing.
Yeah.
And then a bomb drops on me and I'm like, oh, you mean I can't go to university in Israel unless I do this and that?
So we're connecting all the pieces there.
Yeah.
And then you reach out to Shalev, and you had a relationship with Shalev for forever, right? Through hockey and all that stuff, right?
And that's the crazy part that I think people sometimes don't value, right? We see it with customers when it comes to referrals.
Yeah.
But I always say you gotta judge the people around you, and then you gotta evaluate where you place them in your life. And Shalev was placed in a high regard.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, when I hear Shalev's little brother, and when I say high regard, people don't know that. I was bullied pretty badly as a kid. I had a very big head, and the body wasn't there like it is now.
Sure.
And I will forever remember how Shalev stepped up when I was bullied. We're talking 3 brats in hockey, bigger kids, that will bully me. And Shalev actually stepped in and didn't need to do that, right? But he did, and it will always be marked as that's a very kind, good person act, help others.
Right.
And when I heard his brother tell me how well Shalev did and how Shalev got into sales and Shalev killed it, I'm like, dude, I gotta talk with Shalev. It was that simple. I'm like, okay, here is someone that there is legitimacy, there is trust.
Yeah.
What does that look like? And Shalev told me, listen, I can try and get you here, and eventually did. And it took me 2 weeks, in his office, and everything was against me because the season started in the end of April, and I show up in the middle of May. But it wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when.
When, yeah.
It was okay, what am I gonna do? I just left Israel. I said I'm going to university here. If I'm not making money, what am I going to do, right? Go work minimum wage, and how am I going to save enough to go as an international student? So it was a matter of, my back was against the wall, which a lot of times people fear that. Why I think it's actually a great thing, depends, especially in sales industry. And my mind was always set that way since that year. Because I look at it as, what do I need? Right. Not what do I want. You got to separate what do you need and what do you want. And the what you need, act as if that's my back against the wall. If I don't get what I need, I'm in trouble. I'm screwed. Well, if I don't screw myself, I'm going to position myself in a better place that eventually I can focus on what do I want.
Yeah.
But the what do I need, right? And as a parent, it becomes way more obvious, because what do you need? First thing is food on the table for your kids and a roof over their head, right? Yeah. That's not a want. You need that. And from there, it just kept growing. And again, I was very blessed to do well in that one summer.
Yeah.
And, I took the money I needed, went to U of A.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the leftover money, which I never imagined I have leftover money, I'm like, Shalev told me, what are you going to do with it? I'm like, and he's like, you should buy a car. And I love cars, coming from Israel, you just don't have access to the same things. Like everything is double the price.
Right.
So here I am, 20 in Canada, and it's hilarious. My first car, he asked me, what's the dream car you want? I bought a Toyota Highlander, a blue Toyota Highlander.
Those things are reliable and they look good, man. And where was your first summer though? When you came back, where was it?
I landed in Winnipeg, and then Shalev started traveling the office. So we were through Saskatchewan.
Right.
My big 17-week, that would have been like my 4th week on the job, was in Moose Jaw. It was just crazy, how it started. And then,
so you guys were a traveling team, like you were all over the place.
Back then, cool. It was the first of a kind, right?
Very cool.
We were camping, like it was just very unique. And it was, again, to me, it was all like, okay, you gotta do this. This is odd, this is this, but you gotta do this.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of pride in being able to do hard work business that, in my opinion, translated to honest work, because I definitely don't think I was a great salesman, but once I got rolling, I think the passion and the energy worked. But I always believe I found the right people, where a lot of people were knocking 5-10 doors and closing. I always blew my mind how good they are. I would just talk with 30 to 50 people a day. And I'm like, you just need one. And all of a sudden that one loves you because you click, and that one sends you 2 referrals. And back then, right, the market was, which seems very similar in solar, right? There's so many referrals. It's such a fresh era. And I was very blessed, and I succeeded. I hit my goal, bought a car, went to U of A, and got my semester. But then I called my parents, and again, decisions, right? When you look at the longer picture, it's these decisions, and sometimes they're obvious, sometimes they're not. But okay, like I finished the semester, I had a summer.
And real quick, when you went back to U of A, what were you taking? What was the business?
I always thought, like, of course I'm going to take business because I want to be a businessman.
Yeah.
And, I guess first year in U of A also was not really related to business, right? The way universities work, you want to get into business, you need 1 year of general academics, and then you get into business school. Yeah. And then I called my parents, and I'm like, you know what? How bad will it be if I just did 1 semester per year and I work this job? Like, you guys don't care if I come back, right? And they're like, oh, if you're in school, no problem. You're on the right lane, right? And so I learned about the opportunity of recruitment. Yeah. And again, it's kind of neat how other people think you're gonna have a handoff, and Shalev knows Oren. Shalev didn't hand me anything, right? I started looking, and I made sacrifices with the little money I had left, to go and follow the system that I was suggested,
Yeah.
And again, that was go to events and spend money in the bar and learn to look attractive in a way that people might want to consider what you're doing.
Sure.
And then how do you convert that? Because who would want to go knock doors? And
this is year 2. Like, this is early.
This is first off season for me.
Right.
So I'm in U of A, right? And
what year was this? How long? Like,
this would have been 2009.
2009.
So 2010, would have been my first semester in U of A, right?
Yeah.
And again, to me, I'm like, U of A is part of the plan because I'm going to meet students, I can recruit people.
Yeah.
How do I sign up for extracurricular activities? Where can I play pickup hockey to meet people?
Yeah.
And Shalev just told me, you just need to talk with people. You just need to find the people that might be looking for a job. So that's what I was trying to do. And, I ended up in 2010 managing a team, and I had, I want to say 12. We started 12, 13 people on the team. And I think, look, I don't necessarily believe in luck, but I think when you work hard, some good things happen.
Sure.
And out of these 13 people, which is not normal ratio, we finished the summer 7, you know? And it was crazy because we did 1,000 accounts in office. And here I am, 21 years old, not really understanding what's next. Just decided and told my parents, I'm going to stay in Canada because this is a good opportunity and I can go to school. And I made $190,000 in that summer, you know,
Wow.
6 months, you can call it.
Right.
And I'm like, this is insane. This is not normal.
Yeah.
And at the time, the owner of the company I was at told me only an idiot wouldn't buy a house with that kind of earnings. And I'm like, really? And again, the people you know and the people around you and what you decide to do is what they tell you. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, okay, how do I buy a house, right? And a lot of times people are scared. That's what Israelis lack. The, you know, audacities are in our blood. You know, we're gonna ask questions. We're gonna bug someone because we want it. We're curious. And people should not be shy, especially when you have managers, you have people, assistant managers, you have people that care for you, that brought you in. It's genuine. They want you to succeed, right? You gotta ask questions because a mentor is someone that is somewhere you wanna be, right? Someone that has got there in a way that you can get there. And someone, to me, that's one of the most important ones, that got there in a way that you can respect. If someone stomped on people and got there in a way and you're like, I'm not ever stomping on people, well, that's not a good mentor because you can't mimic that. If someone had rich parents, give him $1 million and he made $1 million, we said, well, I don't have rich parents, that's not gonna help me. So when you evaluate people, you just gotta ask yourself, what is it that I'm taking, right? And as soon as that real estate came to the table, I'm like, okay, absolutely, right? And all it was is an introduction to a realtor and a broker and learn a bit about mortgages. And at the time, he just told me, when you think you found something, bring it to me and I'll review it, right? And I always say that to all my Orizon family and door knockers and people that have been with me. When you think you're ready, just bring it to me. I'll look at the numbers, right? And I bought my first home. I bought my first home when I was just under 21, and it was, you know, 99th Street, close to in Edmonton Union Club. It was a good seat, you know, and again, I was hands-on. I developed the basement, so kind of subcontracted myself, which increased the house value. That right then I learned at an early stage. When you put in the work into real estate, you're gonna get a higher evaluations and you can take money against the house. It was very early that I got into that, you know, gratefully. And as I went back to school, that was the challenge because I went back to U of A after making that much money and I sat in class and I'm looking at my professor. And again, I hope some people have better professors, but 4 out of 5 professors, once I got to business school, never did business.
Right.
You know, they finished their master's in business, but they never ran a business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm making more money than these people. They're talking about textbook stuff that doesn't happen in real life. How can I aspire to be mentored by that? You know, again, I'm very analytical, very logical, and I'm like, I'm spending all this money. I'm making less money because I'm not in the field with the troops. And that's when I called my dad, and almost in tears, I'm like, I think I'm gonna have to drop out. And you know, it was mind-boggling because my dad, instead of saying, oh my God, no, don't do that, goes and says, Oren, you're in such a different place than I've been, and I would never want to force you to stay in school or hold you, right? So I'm very grateful for the family and the support and the parents. And again, you make decisions, sometimes the people around you are not supportive of them, right? And now you have a hard decision that becomes even harder, but you need to be focused, you need to be locked on. And as soon as my dad gave me that support, the same day I dropped out of U of A. You know, it was like still within the 2 weeks that you can back out. And life just works, right? Like because I did that, I ended up making my second year as a manager, I think it was just over $300,000.
Wow.
And here you are 21, 22 years old, and you're making that kind of money. And I think that's super important in our line of work. Be responsible. You know, be responsible. I made money.
Well, there's so many anecdotes that you've given explaining that part of the story when you got into door to door, and then the contemplation of how far you can kind of take it, the mentors you had in front of you that had taken it further, obviously. And I just think it's important to touch base on it real quick because there's a couple things I've captured where, I mean, people overcomplicate it. A lot of the language, I don't even know if you realize it, but as you're talking about it, when you were developing the skill set and just trying to learn, it was, I have to learn this, I'm going to do this. It wasn't a matter of if, it was just when. And guys overcomplicate that piece because, yeah, I mean, even for myself, it took me almost a month to make my first sale. But the only difference between me and anybody else and you and anybody else, you stuck with it, right? And then there's this idea of your inputs are equal to your outputs, and you just started to do the inputs really well, and then your output naturally grew. And that was a reflection of not only your own intuition, but what you saw the people ahead of you doing. And you were, let's even call it humble enough to take advice, making sure that it was good advice, not just taking it for what it was, but vetting it, asking lots of questions, the Israeli in you, right? And then going and applying it once you found out it was good advice. And then that's a good segue to what we were just talking about, where I think that's the most common pitfall that I see, especially successful first year, second year, even third year reps, heck, managers sometimes make, where you just have such a great opportunity. You've learned how to control your inputs. Your outputs are amazing. And then there is this stewardship that you have to have around the commissions that you're making. And I think what's interesting is hearing your story around hockey and that being the foundation is maybe you had this advantage of a little more discipline than most, because discipline doesn't just stop at, you know, how you treat your body or the athletic pursuit. How you do anything is how you do everything. And so clearly you are also disciplined in your work, your profession, and then what translated to your stewardship around your finances.
You know, I think you mentioned a couple of things that I want to comment on. Number one is 97% of the people that don't succeed in sales just don't push far enough to reach success. Because that taste of success refuels you. And with me, after 2 weeks of literally selling 2 cancels, you know, everything was bad. And then all of a sudden I have a 7 week, and following the 7 week, 17 week. And then I never look back, right? So when people commit to sales and they don't realize that they need to commit and the beginning is hard, I always say, just compare it to 4 years of university and give it 1-2 months of your all if you really want to commit, right? And I think it's important for people to realize that, because when they enter that, right, and then you talked about managers and everybody, expectations are what we set. And all I needed was to make $30,000 so I can pay for university. So I hit it and I was just on cloud 9. And that's where I think we live in a world, especially with how accessible information is, social media and all that the neighbor's grass is always gonna look greener. You know, and what happened, I'm glad you actually mentioned that, it reminded me, after year 1, okay, so here I did 167 security sales. And I love, by the way, that one of my, whether he knows it or not, inspirations early on was Alex Rice. Alex Rice was there year 1 when I was knocking doors in Shalev's office. And Alex Rice hates me because I came out of the blue and obviously stormed in. Hopefully he doesn't hate me, but you know, when I look at that and the neighbor's grass always been greener, I knew what I needed, right? I knew what I wanted. And at the end of that year, shockingly, ADT at the time, someone knew someone that knew me and heard about my success story, and all of a sudden I was presented with an ADT dealer model at my first year knocking doors. You know, and all of a sudden you're hearing numbers that were double to triple what I was making. And don't get me wrong, like, it's not, I don't think it's greed to evaluate, right? But it's just, more often than not, people evaluate falsely. And if they don't trust the person that brought them in, and they don't trust the system, they're gonna make rushed, wrong decisions. And what ADT never told me about is the power of attrition, right? And you take that model, and if you are a full owner at the time of that model, and you have a cancel, all of a sudden you learn that a cancel actually cost you 3 times what you are making. So now you have to offset that. And if you actually have 10% cancels, which is not a high number in that industry, well, you're actually making less than you were making here. And then you gotta, again, going back to decisions, what is important to me? Because if this journey here, this route that I'm on, is going to get me what I want, do I actually need to be on a different route because the opportunity here is bigger before I captured what I needed on the other route?
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I'm like, you know what? This is kind of safe. I have Shalevir. I have people I know. I have people I trust. I can see this getting me where I need, at least for now. Down the road, I will have more capabilities. I can consider that, right? And thank God I didn't go that route early on, because I just probably would have had a lot of challenges that could have changed everything. And at that time, right, people were making $800 up front in other security companies. All I can say is I have not met someone that bounced around and chased the $600 to $800 up front at the time that ended up better than me.
Sure.
You know, I have not met. I'm sure they exist. Everything, you can always find an exception to a rule. But when you look at the general consensus, right, the people that were loyal, the people that were steady, the people that were planned and calculated, they've done well. And I think it's so important to have a plan. And I always ask people, okay, what's your goal this year? Great. What's your goal in the next 5 years, right? Because not often you are presented an opportunity in life where, okay, this is where you want to be in 5 years, and you actually have a route to that. The fact someone else might have a better route, well, I will just question the hell out of that as a route, because if in 5 years I can be at my almost final destination where I business-wise thought I need to be, well, doesn't it seem already too be good to be true that if someone tells me I can be there in 3 years, like you kind of have to ask these questions, you know? And it's early on, all these things fall into place. And, you know, one of my biggest prides in the industry was integrity. You know, my first year, my award wasn't number 1 overall. I was number 5 in the rookies of a large company, Pinnacle, 2,000 salespeople, you know, in all across North America. But I was number 1 compliance. And it was so cool because to me, again, my background, to me, it just matters, you know. Judaism, they say your name walks ahead of you. It's a sin. So your reputation really matters. And no matter what you say about second chances and that, when you get caught lying to someone or when integrity is jeopardized, there is no real reclaiming that, you know, like there's always going to be something in the back of your mind where I believe, listen, I'm a big believer in win-win-win situations. If I tell you all the truth, you can make your own decision. And, you know, if you chose to work with me, we all know what we're walking into, right? And that's how I've done business in door-to-door. Like, guys, we are here because of this, and that's why we bring it to you. And it served me well, and I'm very happy that I was able to learn that early, and I was able to push that on my teams. And I think all the way through.
Well, even now, I was gonna say, even now, I'm very well versed in the triple W concept. So that has been something not only that you preached back then and obviously embodied, but even today, you know, I know exactly the win-win-win is Oren's classic triple W concept, right? So you go deep, you stay on the course, you see that, okay, sure, there's these distractions. Shiny object syndrome is something that I think everyone in this industry sometimes suffers with. And, you know, new programs, new people, new opportunities that, might get you there in 3 instead of 5 and yada, yada, yada. But instead of getting distracted, you go deep. And we were, you know, before we kind of went back and did the recap and touched on just a couple cool anecdotes and ideas, you were coming into your second year, and obviously that second year turned into, what was it, 8 years at Fluent? Or 7?
2000, I look at Fluent as altogether, 2009 and 10 were Vigilon, right? Where we technically weren't. And then 2011, it became Titan, that later converted to Fluent. But my last year, essentially, with Fluent was really the first year of Orizon, so 2021. So you can look at it as, you know, with the same people, right? 2009 all the way to 2021. And of course, I have some, look, it's not regrets. We can't live life with regrets, but it's lessons, right? And I believe that the way that chapter ended, in life, you gotta put people first, then I say health, because if you don't have health, you have nothing really, and then comes the money.
Well, and before we get to that, sorry, like just bragging about you a little bit. So 11 years basically in the alarm space, right? And you go from assistant manager to then regional.
I never even assisted. It was jumped from closer, you know, salesman to co-manager. Right. And then it took me 3 more years. So I guess 2014, I was finally producing enough to be counted as a regional.
Right, and then a regional is 4,000 or 5,000 accounts?
4,000 plus.
Well, and that's just crazy. To put that in perspective, like if we talked about that in solar terms, how many accounts would that be under management? on the solar side.
It's always a challenge to actually find a true comparison, right? But I want to think, look, when it was 2,000 in 4 months, right, to get a Britley and whatever, no one ever done that. And I just look at that, like, I would think that reality is that's probably, if you look at it from ambitious I would say half. If you did a 4,000 accounts office in security, you should be doing 2,000 in a very generous way, right? If you go, you can say 1,000 in a conservative evaluation, but the reality is the door knockers are just awesome, you know, and the connection is what matters here, and bringing it to people's attention. So when you think about, you're selling units, right? Sure, this is a bigger ticket item, but at the end of the day, you're selling humans and units, right? And when you talk with this many people in a day, you're gonna have this many opportunities. So to go and say, oh, one alarm is, or one solar is 10 alarms, I don't know, right? And we saw that. We've had guys sell 3, 4 in a day in solar. And Wyatt set a record, in 2025 after 3, 4 years of saturation. So that's just something when people break barriers and break records and open people's eyes. And then again, you have a decision. Oh, he's something I'm not. Oh, I don't have access to that. Oh, has it been done? Can it be done? Am I going to do it, right? Well, has it been done? Yes. Can it be done? Well, Wyatt did it in 2025. So what? The drastic change is happening yesterday? Like, that's where you lose your chance. And am I going to do it is the most important thing, because do you have the conviction? Right.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. And that's such an impressive number. I want to talk there quickly, because you go from, just personal accountability, and then you start scaling teams, and then you have this 11-year stretch where you're obviously producing, but a lot of what you're doing turns into the management of the production, and then making sure that your downline production is continually growing. So talk to me about, talking to the future leaders of what we are now building with Orizon. What is it that you learned about management, about people, that allowed for those very impressive numbers of 5,000, 7,000 accounts under management by the end, right? Like, what was it for you that you kind of could take away as...
Your team does 30% above or below you as a leader, right? And it takes many years to become a leader that can actually step back, and let others lead. And you don't want to rush this. Like, you don't want to jump through this too fast, where people think, okay, I've knocked doors for a year, I've managed for a year, I'm done, right? And because you need to develop your managers, you need to hold their hand. And that goes to assistant managers, that goes to recruiters, right? You have to take them through it. So when you look at someone that has done something great, and you say, okay, he can be a mentor because I can look up and I want to be where he's at, even if it's the first step of your journey, right? But you can get to the first step thanks to that person. You want to have that person involved in your life and care for you. So a lot of times I find managers that just lose that touch, right? And they don't do one-on-one conversations, right, with their reps once a week. They're not talking about daily, right? They don't ask the people that don't sell at the end of the day, how was your day, right? And the people that are experiencing that, by the way, as reps, need to know that you guys deserve that. You guys demand that, right? Going back to the audacity, the chutzpah, like, you guys should ask for that. Hey, I haven't talked with you this week. I want your time. Tell me what's going on, right? And I think that's so important, because there's a reason why I don't call the Orizon organization, I call it the Orizon family, right? You care for your family, and that's what people need to understand. It's truly remarkable in our line of work how no one can win without the people under him winning, Sure, the numbers change and the scalability, but at the end of the day, we are not MLA, right? You're not making money for just bringing bodies. You need to see the people there sell and succeed in order to succeed. And I can completely get behind that. It's a very healthy concept. And when you guys look at management and development, you have an opportunity to impact other people's lives. And while you're impacting positively, because if you're negatively impacting them, they're not going to win, you're not going to win, you're going to grow and develop. And when you understand that management is a blessing, it's a blessing for development, for higher income opportunity, for leaving your mark on people's lives. Imagine being the guy that 50 years down the road, some grandpa tells his grandchildren about the person that brought him into sales, and that sales job that got him into the first property, and the first property that led into a multi-million-dollar empire because they left door to door and got into that.
Right.
And people that recruit and don't realize that's what you're playing with. You are finding people in areas of life that are looking for something, and you fill that void.
Yeah.
Now, I always say, you should not fill that void unless you are happy in that void, right? When people recruit for someone else to be happy without them realizing, I am happy. I just did this job, right? I am happy. Even if it's 1 month, I dominate that month. It woke me up in ways I've never been woken, in a way that, wow, the accomplishment of a sale, the training, the mentorship, I have never experienced that.
Yeah.
And once you realize the value of that, once you realize the opportunity, once you realize that you have walked into a genuine family that wants you to succeed because they just found another family member that together is going to grow the family stronger.
Yeah.
Once you realize that, it's remarkable, it's magical, and I love that. And I think that's what managers have to remember. When you lead by example and you're out there doing and outworking them, and you are giving them time when they think you're so busy, and then you go and also sell, which is the one duty that they need to do, all of that is inspirational and a half. And it makes a difference. And I was very blessed, when I brought my friends from Israel. They used to say at the beginning, Oren, and again, can a person operate with that? He's like, Oren, we don't care. Just tell us what to do. Tell us how to do what you've done. And that's how it was. Please mentor us. Please lead the way. And when the two sides embrace on that, it's amazing.
Right.
Because when you are recruited, or when you're recruiting, you need to understand you're bringing people that are somewhat like-minded to you.
Sure.
They're either liking you because of who you are, they're either liking you because of what you've accomplished, but you as a recruiter need to understand you have accomplished, right? And that's the scene. Accomplishments come in very many different levels, right? You can accomplish going to university because you started working in McDonald's at 16. Accomplishments don't have to be the way we view them. Accomplishments come in many different ways. But what are you accomplishing? So if I'm 19 years old and my accomplishment is to beat minimum wage. I want to be my own boss, which this is an entrepreneurial world, and I want to make more than I would have made at McDonald's. Well, that's amazing, right? You have that opportunity. If you've done that and you didn't make 100 grand, you made 20 grand in a summer, which is more than minimum wage. Well, can you pass that accomplishment to your peers and friends at school, at sports, whatnot? And that's the concept of recruiting, because it changed your life.
Yep.
Shouldn't it affect them? And the greatest part is when you start affecting them, you're actually developing out to the next level, because now you're recruiting. Now you're growing as a leader. Now you have the responsibility of leading these guys and training them and making sure they're in good hands. I just love that structure.
Yeah, and it's so obvious how excited, just how you genuinely do that in aspects that obviously do not translate now in terms of like doors knocked and sales made and stuff like this. But I find myself, you being the big man that we all follow, I find myself constantly wanting to and being excited about working harder because of what it is that you're willing to set as the example. And I find it interesting when you explain that, the lead by example, to then be sold on what the opportunity is in the first place and be excited about it. Because if you're not genuinely excited about it, leading by example, having the success that you want for your downline, for the people that you're leading, well, then it just becomes one of those things that you're doing, kind of like you mentioned, just because you think you should be doing it, and you're recruiting because someone else wants you to recruit, and you don't genuinely believe in the opportunity or the example that you could set, and that changes when you, to your point, maybe go from having to be the one in the front, getting the most sales, getting the deals done, to then truly be able to step away. But then even the way that you're leading by example when you do step away has to be so deliberate in ensuring that, the guys are gonna do 30% less than what you're willing to do. And one of my favorite stories about you that I'm gonna share, this is what really gets me fired up about Oren, and I tell this story all the time. But we had just started working with you. You had told me that, you know, a new market that you hadn't been in before was something that you were willing to take on. And Bryce, it doesn't matter. As long as you have guys, we'll make it happen. And, you know, we went and we made it happen in Winnipeg. So shout out Joe Buck and that team because they did an awesome job this year. But anyways, we're in this shared warehouse space and it's completely open and guys don't have their own space to, you know, have correlation. And so you beat me to the punch. You get out to that market before I go because you want to go see the team and you want to go see the space and make sure the op guys are set up and all the different things in terms of infrastructure that you needed to then open a new market. And it wasn't contracted. It wasn't with anyone else's help. This guy, the first day that he's there, rents a U-Haul, goes to Home Depot, buys supplies, you know, nails, screws, 4x4s, drywall, because you came to that shared warehouse space and realized there was no private space to do the meeting. And this guy builds an office by himself. And it was one of the first things that because we were very early with you, and when I saw you do that, I was flabbergasted that you were willing by yourself to go and do that and just hands and knees, serve this new team, build them a space and do it. And forever, that's where, when we talk about it and whatever awesome stuff we're gonna do over the next couple of years as we continue to build and compound, that'll be forever my favorite story about you, because that was the day where I was like, you know what, I could run through walls for this guy. If he's willing to do that, like, holy smokes, man, I'm gonna make sure that I go work my ass off. And so I just don't think you can't understate the importance of always being willing to lead by example. And that can come in many different ways. And you just 110%, as you explain that, as you preach that, I give that story because there is no one that lives that more than you. And I think sometimes it's actually, it goes both ways with you because you do too much. You do too much sometimes, but it's one of my favorite things about you. So you live that, and I completely agree with that as a sentiment for future leaders that are looking to grow their teams, build their leadership skills. Keep those two things in mind. Be sold on the opportunity and lead by example so you can sell other people on the opportunity and just really get them excited about being a part of what it is that you're creating. It's so awesome, man.
I love it, and I'm humbled, and I appreciate the kind words. You know, I always say, if I'm not gonna do it, who is gonna do it? And it's important because what could I have done better, right? Sure. And the Winnipeg team was not feeling the love. And I could have tried and contracted, and no contractor will start tomorrow, right? Yeah. And like, it will just drag on, and things were already like, oh boy, these guys are not feeling the love. And we just have to make these decisions in life and go all in, right? And I'm very blessed that I can go all in. And again, I kind of started about it earlier where, you know, you need your health in life, right? Mm-hmm. And you don't want to jeopardize that. But to me, it's people, health, and then comes the money. And after Fluent, I learned, you know, I was loyal to someone for a very long time. And, you know, it was very hard to embrace that money was more important than the people. Yeah. But it was also a very bright beacon in my life to what I need to do. Yeah. And I have to live by it. Yeah. And as leaders, right, you never want to be caught as money before people. Right. Because you make decisions throughout your journey and people. And again, that even comes in forms that in corporate, right? Someone would need medical assistance with a bill. And like, of course we're going to take care of them because it's family. And when you live like that and you do good, it positions you in a very special, heartwarming place. And I'm very grateful that we have that at Orizon. Yeah. And I'm very grateful that I'm able to do that. And I always brag that there's lots of smarter, more talented people than me. And luckily, I still have the work ethic and the animal work ethic that allows me to do. I
believe that, man. And you definitely have the characteristics of what, then make the company what it is today, because it's a reflection of what it is that you stand for and what's important. And the people, the health, and then the money, I think that's what's made Orizon what it is. So that's a great segue to talk about how that came to be, because what's so interesting hearing you talk about all of this and how authentic it is that was almost reinforced by that experience. And you've alluded to it a couple times now, but let's just dive into that quick. That experience at the end of going all in with Fluent, building these teams, doing this production. You know, you're 11 years in with these people that, you know, were supposed to be family to you, and then 2021 comes. And this is the same year that Orizon gets started, but it was almost everything you just talked about was reinforced because you saw the exact opposite happen. So share what you can, but what happened there? And that was, because I think it's interesting because that ended up being the springboard to now what we know as Orizon.
You know, what happened in a nutshell, right? There were a lot of promises. And I say, if someone makes a promise and can put that promise in writing, right, that's a red flag. And when someone makes a promise and gets questioned about it, there is no embarrassment in asking questions, right? If someone is not sure about something and he asks questions, we are helping them have clarity and understand their own journey. And a lot of times, especially in this line of work, people are putting trust in our hands, right? And it's important. And for a long time, right, we were just believers, and the markings were on the wall, but we were just blinded, right? And I think what I'm really trying to do bluntly at Orizon is to not, we started with that universal pay scale concept, and we started with having the equity pool managers and sales and closers, right? Very transparent. And for people to understand, because you need to feel good about what you're doing, and you need to feel good about the people that are above you benefiting from what you're doing because they're helping you, right? And at the end of Fluent, it was just not that. It was me providing, and it was the status quo, because I ran Canada. No one was in Canada, you know? And then all of a sudden, COVID arrived. And for me to be told that it's my problem and you guys just come down to the States because the States is awesome right now, I'm like, you can't just tell people to leave their home and country, right?
Yeah.
And then for me to find out that I'm needing to, on my own, pay for face masks and just stupid stuff, right? And not to have the compassion from the person that was there for me throughout the years, it was a very sharp, sad 180, you know? There was a story when I was on the road with my dad, going to BC to recruit, and I was on a 3-hour call with the owner of Fluent. And at the end of that, my dad just looked at me and he says, Oren, I'm sorry I failed you. I'm sorry I didn't read that person better, but I hope you understand what this conversation means. And I hope you understand that right now you are starting to strategize how you fix things. And when people reveal their face, and that face is not anything like what you thought or expected to be, you better be ready to make some hard decisions.
Yeah.
And I just don't want any of that at Orizon. I want people to have things in writing. I want people to have clarity. I want people to be able to ask questions. I want people to ask for transparency about anything. Like from day one, we said, guys, we need to be a healthy business. If we're not making 15% profit as a business, then we're not going to be able to do a lot of the things that we do. And that starts with taking care of clients, taking care of sales referral mistakes, taking care of everybody, right? And for all of us to win together and have what we've built.
Yeah.
And I think that's, if I look at what happens there, the owner was in it for a long time. He expected more out of what he built.
Right.
And that's my interpretation of the situation. And when, shit hit the fan, he just started thinking, okay, how do I get what I expected, regardless of the people around me?
Yeah.
And we win together, we lose together, right? And that wasn't the feeling or the case at Fluent, especially at the end. What one thing that traumatized me at the time is he all of a sudden made it way harder to sell. The sales rules became tougher, so people will quit, because if people quit, they forfeit their equity or residual or things like that.
Right.
And you just gotta ask yourself, like, what does that look like 20, 30 years down the road?
Sure.
What is going to be talked about that moment? Was that a lead by example moment, that this is my hero and someone that gave his life for me to actually be what I am, right? Or was that screw all these people along the road, I'm good, I'm going to find a way to be good.
Right.
I just don't want any of that associated with me and Orizon and the family and the group we have, because we have great things in this world. And if we can amplify them together, and we can find good people to go through these moments, right? And fight together. Like, there's gonna be fights, there's gonna be stresses and challenges. And know that during this time, you have other great people around you that you can talk with, you can share, you can grow with. That's remarkable. You know, I always say I never played tennis. I didn't play an individual sport. I played hockey.
Yeah.
And when you win as a team, there is something about it, right? And I think there are many great teams out there. There's always going to be other great teams. But if we can just be a truly amazing team, right, that's a big win for me as I look at it, where people feel at home, feel loved, feel cared for, and know that they have a good place for their future. That's, to me, the magic here.
And that's, I think that's the goal anytime that you are building anything, really, regardless if it's a business or not. Like, you want anything that involves other people and relies on other people and their excitement about it to then make it what it could be, should be, is going to be. Yeah, you want them to feel that ownership and really wear, anytime you got that Orizon logo on, you want to be excited about that. And I definitely think you are accomplishing that, but it's the everyone else around you that allows that to be so, because you've instilled something that they can get excited about and feel at home for. So let's chat about that. Let's talk about today, right? We've gotten to this point now. You have that happen in 2021, and then you launch what we know now as Orizon in 2025. But I'm sure that what we get to identify as Orizon was not what it was at the very beginning, right? So let's talk about that, where that came from, and then where we're at today and where you want to see it go.
I think it's cool because the plan, right? So I technically started in November 2021, but it was just me, right? And it was about 5-6 months of just planning, and I believed I knew what pieces we need, right? And during these 5-6 months, a lot of things that to me are obvious, to us at Orizon are obvious, and I'm forever grateful that these things are obvious. They're not obvious for the industry, and I'm talking about quality assurance, to have proper control. Like, we were first to have sales reps just run a credit card deposit on the spot, but to do the welcome call, to make sure that, okay, we can scale this, and then we know that we have some sort of quality because there is a bar, there are questions and such. And that was the beginning. And then when Nick jumped in, it was amazing how Nick moves next door to me and tells me about his father and how he was an entrepreneur and how he wants to get into business. And here's a very successful corporate person. And he all of a sudden comes and tells me if there was ever opportunities to work together. And sure enough, we get into business together, and I see a very capable, impressive, responsible individual that then goes and it tells me, solar, I see, is where you put your focus. How do I get in? And that was the beginning, right? It was Oren, Nick, and Wyatt, because I knew Wyatt is going to be capable of getting us some sales started. And, once we saw that the operation, the concept, the systems are in place and they work, Wyatt sold the first few accounts, and then we scaled it. And we basically went into, him developing a team right around him, and it worked, and we started seeing a lot more production. And after that summer, right, it was the challenge converted from, okay, we sold to execution, right? We did 41 installs in 2022 to 560 in 2023. And that remarkable achievement, right, not crushing the system, was a lot thanks to Nick and what he did and what he built and planned and developed. And then you fast forward, and we just succeeded to actually hold that growth, right? Because sometimes too much growth is detriment, like it can be deadly to the business.
Yep.
And we survived, right? And I think that survival came with a lot of great people and a lot of great work that was put into it. And then, you fast forward, because what ended up happening that was amazing is we were very modest, I guess you can say, and we did more and more and more, but instead of taking on debt and living out of where we should be, we just did it the organic, responsible way.
Yeah, below your means. Yeah.
And I think a few of us wore multiple hats and worked more than the normal hours, but it came together, and we were never scared to work harder and to, change the wrong people at earlier stages. And I'm forever grateful for the sales reps, because they were a part of that, right? They were committed. They were really in it with us, because I don't think Orizon was ever the easiest to sell. When we started, we were nobody. We were the new people, right? On top of that, we had a very high quality assurance where you can go sell somewhere else and they won't even ask you anything. And together, going through all of these, and in case I don't say it enough, it is known and appreciated of what the troops in the field and the sales reps, right? The unstoppable force that we have done has brought us here. And now we're in a place that we're laughing, right? We're debt-free, we have assets, we have an amazing building, we have a building in Calgary, we have 35 vehicles in our fleet, we have 60 plus corporate people, 40 or so installers, electricians, 100 sales reps and setters. But the core, the fundamental concept should not change. I don't want them to change. We need to understand that we're still doing the exact same thing. We're still working as hard. It's not that because we've built it and we got here, now we can sit back and just enjoy, let someone else work. No, we gotta keep at it. We gotta be committed to our customers for their experience and all that comes with it. And it's not just a sound good thing. I really hope that everybody understands that, because that's what people want to see. Internally, externally, right? Passion, caring, knowing that we will do whatever it takes. We're not perfect, but we'll make it right. We will answer customers, we'll get back to them on the sales rep sides, on the company side. And it's exciting because we're all of a sudden positioned in a very unique place.
Right.
And this podcast might be watched in a few years, and we are the entity for solar in Canada. And there's just so many unique things that we do that other companies don't. And don't get me wrong, I always told you about it. You might not see it today, you might not see it in 6 months, but sometimes it's gonna come out. And all the things that are hidden or not proper, they float. And then you have something you're handling. And even when that comes up, there is, how do you handle it? And I think Orizon is positioned and built where a lot of these landmines, you can call it, we're gonna see in our industry. We've just developed it very sustainably, very safe, very
the right way,
strong.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying the right way. I can never say that, but I hope, right, that when someone looks at it, they can say, hey, they made good money, they made good commissions, they were profitable, but it was done with integrity, and I can feel good about it. You know what? Sure, I paid a bit more than someone else, but I can see why, and I'm okay with it. And that company started a movement toward green, really left its impact. And I think you see more and more of that now, especially.
Yeah, and I do think we have that opportunity to be the go-to, company, not only in the energy space. Obviously, I have my own ideas, but I think in the home services space, Orizon has the ability to really be a home, what do they call that? Anyways, a very identifiable name and force within the home services space, because it's the stuff you do now, and maybe it's a little bit harder than what the easier route would be, but it's the quote unquote right way to do it in anticipation of what could go wrong in the future. And you're right, there's a lot of companies in this space, specifically solar, that it probably, very easy to say that maybe they are taking those shortcuts in the short term with not as much of the long term in mind. So just to maybe flag it and really just stamp it, what do you see for tomorrow? And what do you want? Where do you want Orizon to be? What do you want it to be? You've spoken a lot about it, kind of unintentionally, but just stamping it, like what's the goal, man?
It's to have a unicorn, right? Because look, the goal was always to be Western Canada's largest solar company, right? But I think we're growing to a point that we're going beyond that, and that's cool. Now, when I talk about a unicorn, it's not just to be that big one, but to be that big one that does it ethically and people are confident in what they're getting.
Yeah.
And we are now adding, right? We're not pivoting, we're not giving up, we're adding to our portfolio, and I'm super excited to see what that will look like, right? Where the guys in the field are working so hard, and because they work so hard, it now positioned them at the seat at the table to, by the way, what about this, and that? And it kind of ties, especially with Energuide, right? When you look at the efficiency, and whether it's the attic insulation or the AeroSeal or the heat pumps that I think can be exciting, you know, or the home automation that we're bundling into it. And it's not the end, right? Because like you said, we are gonna keep expanding and we are gonna keep finding more products. And you know, in alarms back in the day, it was like, oh, the new camera. I'm like, how amazing it is that we're not finding a new camera to add to our product. We're finding a whole product line to add to our offering to clients. And I think it's super important that we realize project management, which is, it's not the project management at corporate, it's what we do as a whole.
Yeah.
Because we come, we take it to the customer, we present, we explain, we design, we show a proposal, we seal a deal, we put it on the permits, we manage it from A to Z, is a valuable part of construction industry. And the city of Edmonton, when I talked with them about SEEP, they were literally telling me how that's what they want. They want to see more honest, good companies do more, because the customers that we're sitting with, well, we're opening the door for them to access better, greener energy, right? But what more can we do once that door is open? And I think that's a very exciting territory that we've entered. And I just really see us dominating that, like we've dominated everything else, and position us in a place that you call it the home industry, the home improvements industry. But to me, I just want us to remain unicorns. There is gonna be problems, but if we can always look back with pride on what we've done and how we've done it, and the customers, man, we have so many good reviews. I love when I get these positive emails about post-install reviews. And I'm not just talking about Google and Facebook, because that's the ones that people see. I'm talking about the internal.
Right.
And it's just amazing to see repeat compliments about certain people and how they've accomplished it. And I hope that everybody understands that's massive, right? To be able to know we're doing good and we are getting rewarded for it and people see it in a very positive light is a unicorn situation, because more often than not, over time with door-to-door, things got tainted and people were not feeling that. And I think we are definitely on the highway to be that company. And I just don't ever want to see us get off that road, because it's something that we should all be able to be very proud of. And for generations to come, you know, door-to-door was not the problem. Here is a door-to-door company that have done it and have done it right. And door-to-door will continue to be the heart and soul of the company. And we will have other channels and inside sales and all that. But the door-to-door troops and the opportunity we talked about earlier is just unmatched.
Yeah.
It's so unique.
And it's so exciting because it's just getting started. It's just getting started, and that unicorn company you want to be, I think has the potential to manifest itself if we just keep doing things the right way, and we have the right people at the table doing the right things, like you kind of just mentioned. So broad, but I love it, man. Orizon will be the unicorn company that represents that direct-to-home space in the right way. So
Amen.
Let's wrap it up in a different way, just because we've been talking a ton about business and growth and principles around all of that, which obviously for the guys is huge. But I just want to close it out, take a bit of a different route. Talk to me about, you know, family and the importance of that real quick. Before we sign off, just because you're a big family guy, and I think one of the things I really respect about you is how, you know, to your point about aims and what success means to different people. I know that you're very deliberate about that. So talk to me about family real quick.
Look, I talked about the Orizon family, and I always told, I think it was Nick early on, right? And I will say that the only time I would ever screw someone ever in my life is if it's my family life is on the line, right? Because when I say people, health, money, guys, my family, my immediate family is my first people. And then I have my extended family, which is really Orizon and everything going on here.
Yeah.
And I think it's super important. Like, I wouldn't expect anything different from anyone else in the organization. You guys have your loved one and your kids or whatnot, and that is the most important thing in life, right? This is your own blood that you're developing, and you're developing whether it's mini humans or whether it's your family, right? And your relationship and your couple. And it's so important that we remember that, again, that's at the top, that's the people, right? So I believe, look, I believe that kids is just the purest form of joy and happiness. And when you look at kids, again, I love how a lot of people don't realize that, but it actually ties to integrity, the ways they are so happy. When you see a kid laugh, right? They don't know black, white, Jewish, Christians. They don't know any of that. And just the things that they're very much fueled by. And for us to be able to provide that, right, as parents, and to bring that to the world and ensure that our kids are well-behaved and good people and develop, right, it's something to be very proud of. And I think that to see that joy is a gift that we all have. The opportunity, right? And that joy, again, can come from a couple in a very happy relationship. And it brings all these experiences, right? And I'm very blessed that I can bring a lot of my family experiences into the Orizon world, right? When I'm loving how Costa Rica this year, we're gonna have so many people with children coming, right?
Yeah.
It's so awesome to see. And then the facility that we've developed in Edmonton, like the goal in mind is, hey, we will have a gym and we will have that pool table room and we will have the arena and things for people to really enjoy with their families, because how awesome it is to know that as an organization we can actually supply more than just the money to our families. And then it comes on the individual level, right? What is a family? And I think it's everything. At the end of the day, we start there because it's the people we work for, it's the people that we want to make sure are protected and happy, and it's our own. And to me, I mean, family is really unique because it's an opportunity we all have as humans, right? To be part of something bigger, which is developing something else. And it's not just leading people in cells and all that, it's leading your own. And it's on to see the highs and the lows and the good and the bads of mini yous, right?
Yeah.
And really being a part of that. And to, honestly, in my case, right, it's Ali's joy. Like I say, I'm the provider and I'm there for many things, but just to see my wife so happy and being able to live, right, stay home with the kids and all these things, it's priceless.
Yeah.
And I hope that others find joy in it, because at the end of the day, everybody needs to find their own why and their own joy. I'm a big fan and, just, again, an advocate of share that with your family. And that's where it's not just your immediate family. There is so much to share that's when it expands. And that's where I love the opportunity to share more. But to me, life is about family, because life is about people and then the experiences we have together. So I appreciate you bringing it up, because people, I hope, believe it and understand that that's what we're about, because that's the beginning of why do we do it.
Well,
right?
and not only the beginning, but the end too. It starts and ends with that family unit and that structure and what it is that what they've allowed you to do, obviously, for the business, but then what the business inherently brings back to the family and what that kind of allows as an expansion of the family, like you just pointed out. So I love that, man. So let's close it out. We've talked about a ton. This will definitely not be the last time we talk, to really capture everything that I think you have as influence that would be great for the audience at Orizon. And even broader than that, I think we need, 10 more episodes. So let's make sure that we make more time. But to put a bow on it, like, the idea of the show that I've had as I've sat with, kind of what we want to do this year and bringing on guests and all these different things is just really helping people kind of direct their day to day, right? We've talked about tons that you could take as just mini applications that would then benefit the way people are directing their day to day. But being intentional as a wrap up, like one thing out of all the stuff we've talked about that you'd want the team to take away as advice that helps them kind of direct their day to day. And then the only other thing I'd add on that is, you have a ton just based on your experience, but do you have anything as actual content anyone can take away, where you got a book you like, podcast you like, anything like that would help the team better direct their day-to-day is what we'll close out on?
I would say for sure have a why. And have a why is a task that you all owe yourself to figure out what is it. And that why could be for the next month, the next year, the next 5 years, lifetime. But you need to have a why. And the reason you need to have a why is once you have a why, you have good leaders and mentors around you. And I'm always available that can help you with that why and how you get there, right? And that is taking control, not being a floater, but taking control of your life and deciding this is why I'm doing it and that's where I'm headed. And when you have direction and conviction, everything is possible. I hate to say it, right? You put me on a spot. I don't really read books. I don't really watch podcasts. I believe in just trial and error, the grind and my own.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've done a bunch of exercises and I think even videos on like goals, right? But that's my biggest advice to first day in Orizon, 1 month, 1 year. What is that why? And realize there is so many different whys out there. Don't be scared of your why, right? Challenge your why. Is it truly something that you are actually caring for? Because I always say, well, everybody wants to have a Lamborghini, but why, right? And when is an important reason, right? If you're just getting the Lamborghini for the looks, or that's actually feeling an adrenaline, like whatever the case might be. To me, I can tell you, I got into it originally for recruitment, right? And I fell in love with the thrill, right? And when you have these whys, right? So it could be, for example, if that's the one I'm talking about, is like to live life to the fullest, right? Sure. I feel adrenaline makes me feel alive. I'm chasing adrenaline. Now, do you chase adrenaline at 100% of your capacity? Do you chase adrenaline at 30% and then 70% is family? You gotta realize what is that why and how you actually get closer to where you wanna be. And it's not a 1 day or a 1 month. We're talking about a few years and consistency. It's a long journey. But I do think people need to realize early on in their lives, what is it that they want? Do I want to be married, right? That's a question that you should ask yourself, and the earlier you do, the better, right? Or no, I definitely don't want to have a partner in my life. Do I ever want to have kids, right? Do I want to own a house or do I want to rent forever, right? Do I want to own a car or do I want to rent? What kind of a car do I see myself? Not today, but 10 years. I have it made. If I can dream of my made up life, right? Do I get up in the morning to go to work, or I build wealth that can allow me to do whatever I want? All of these things are just ideas, but the concept is really try and think, what is it that you want, right? Don't be a floater and just hope that you're going with the current and you're going to end where you want. You might end in a good place, but ending where you want starts with you knowing where that is. And that's my biggest thing to everybody that I talk with is have goals, figure out the why, ask for help if you're struggling, because once you are focused, you're unstoppable.
I love it, man. Yeah, and there's the concept of asking why 7 times. The what you want is important, why you want it is even more important. And then the layers behind the superficial reasons, you kind of strip those away as you do it, maybe not once, not twice, not even 3, like 7 times. Why does that actually matter, and why does it matter when? So I think that's great advice, great way to kind of, like I said, end it off and just give the guys something tangible that they can take away, go and apply tomorrow, and then better direct their day-to-day, their summer, their off-season, whenever you might be watching this. So love it, Oren. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for leading it.
Absolutely. You guys have gotten to know the big man behind the big company a little bit better. And if anything, I'm excited to go out and just have an amazing season this year, knowing how important it is for us to do so and what it means to be a part of this right now, because it's so exciting. So this just hopefully amplifies that for you guys the way it's done for me. And yeah, man, we're going to have you on again. But thanks so much, Oren. Appreciate your time, man. You're the man.
Looking very forward to seeing this year.